Hello everyone. In this video log I would like to clarify the concepts of cultural absolutism, cultural relativism and cultural pluralism. We basically use these concepts to describe how we feel about another culture, or more specifically, how we feel about the norms and values in another culture. For this reason, there is a very strong link with ethics in which we use almost identical concepts. In case of absolutism or cultural absolutism, we assume that our norms and values are the best. Our culture is the best compared to other cultures, and we act accordingly. This means that we assess our own culture using the norms and values of our own culture and conclude that our culture is better than other cultures. Examples could be, the ideas of Nazi Germany back then. Their culture was assumed to be better than other cultures, using their own norms and values as a criterion. On a more positive note, perhaps we could see the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as another example of cultural absolutism, because we assume that those norms and values are applicable to each and every individual on this planet. In case of cultural relativism, we do not assume that one culture is better than the others. Cultures are simply different. And when we assess another culture, we should assess that other culture using the norms and values of that other culture. In other words, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. This simply means that there is no right and wrong among cultures. They are simply different, and there is not one ultimate truth. They all have their own ultimate truth, and they coexist. So, this could mean that when you are a European and you go to China and have dinner in a restaurant, you may barb after the dinner as a sign of respect for the chef. You do that not necessarily because this is prescribed by your own norms and values and your own culture, but you do assess the habits of the Chinese using the norms and values of the Chinese, and you adapt your behavior accordingly. In the case of cultural pluralism, we also assume that there are differences in norms and values between cultures, and that all cultures have their own truth. However, we simultaneously recognize that those cultures might be at odds with one another. They might even conflict with one another. You therefore assess the other culture using your own norms and values, and you recognize that you might be different than the other culture. And simultaneously, the only way to learn something from one another is by engaging in a dialogue and try to learn something from the other culture. This does not necessarily mean that you accept the norms and values of the other culture, which is something you do in cultural relativism, but it means that you recognize that the other culture is different and has its own truth. So, for instance, when you do business abroad, you may be confronted with another culture, and some elements of that other culture you might find offensive when you assess these elements using your own norms and values. So when you apply the idea of cultural pluralism, it means that you engage the other culture, you engage in a dialogue through which you can mutually influence one another. At least you can try to sort out why you are so different, why you have other ideas on norms and values than the other culture. This could lead at least to learning something from one another. It doesn't necessarily mean that in the end you have to accept those elements you find offensive in the other culture, but you now understand at least why you find it so offensive when you compare the other cultures, and perhaps a dialogue in the end leads to a milder approach in both ways. So, I hope you've learned a few things after watching this video log. For more information you might check www.drwernert.com or at Dr. Wernert on Facebook. That is www.facebook.com/drwernert. Thank you very much for watching and good luck. Bye!